All right, hello, I'm Tracy Pierce. Thanks for joining me for these free mini animal communication sessions. If you're joining me on Zoom or Facebook, you can use the chat or the comments section to send me questions if you have questions for our animal friend here today. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the picture here of our animal friend today. So this is Hercules, and Hercules passed away. I'm not sure how long ago he passed away, but let's see. He passed away when he was 7.5 years old. And so just to share a little bit with you guys about animal communication, a lot of the animals that I've talked with so far, I have previously talked with, and Hercules is a new animal to me. So what I notice in animal communication is when I'm talking to a new animal, it's often sometimes similar to learning your way around a new town. So like for instance, if you go on vacation and you're staying at a hotel, you'll eventually you rent a car, say, and you go to a restaurant, you go to a tourist attraction, and maybe the first time you do it, it feels a bit unfamiliar. But after you've done it a few times, it becomes secondhand knowledge, or like that pathway has been forged either in the brain, your neural pathway knows how to do it. So it's sort of similar, I find, with animal communication. So what I'm going to do is just get quiet and start tuning into Hercules. Sometimes it'll take a little bit longer for me to connect with a new animal, so we'll just see how it goes here. So I'm just going to get quiet and start tuning into Hercules. What I feel right away is this sort of lightness in his energy. And he's telling me it's different than when he was incarnated on Earth, that what I'm feeling of him now is different. Do you want to say more about that, Hercules? He's showing there's like layers when an animal, including a human, passes away, there's layers of them that kind of fall apart. The way it's almost like these emotional things that maybe we attach ourselves to, like we think that's who our personality is. He says that really can fall away when we pass away, and that creates a lighter way of being in the world. He's really showing it as like a shedding, like almost taking a heavy jacket off. Like he's showing me like one of those big cloaks, like from, I don't know, like Lord of the Rings or something. It's kind of like taking one of those big cloaks off. Maybe many cloaks for some people, he says. He feels really good about his life here. Oh, I'm just seeing, I got a little thing in the chat here. Hercules' former owner is joining us on Zoom, and it looks like he passed away in 2008. So he's been gone for a while. Hercules, is there more you want to tell us about you, about death, or what's happening in the world today? This is kind of an open forum for you to say what you want, Hercules. So, I'll ask questions if you want, but I'm really interested just what you would like to share with us. He's showing himself as being in between lives again. He's showing that he had this incarnation as a cat, I'm seeing an orange and white cat, a male, he says. I really like coming into animal bodies as a male. It's one of his, it's his preferred, he says. Not that females are bad, it's just there's something that resonates with the masculine energy, like his overall kind of, I don't know, process, if you want to call it that. Okay, so you were in a kitty body and you're not anymore, is that right, Hercules? Yeah, he's showing himself as this really bright, shining light. It almost feels a bit angelic. Yeah, he's saying, I'm in this in-between phase right now. I did a lot of work with this family that I was with as a cat, and it was time for me to leave that as well. Hi, Melina. So what else do you want to tell us about this? Like, what are you doing right now, Hercules? Showing it as sort of an in-between time. It's like it can be very similar for humans. He's showing it almost like a classroom. There's this sort of in-between life learning phase, he says, and that's what he's doing right now. Have you been there very long, Hercules? And he kind of, I see him kind of do this gesture like, huh? He says, well, time doesn't really mean the same thing here as it does on Earth. He says it's been within the last year that he passed away from this other incarnation. Do you have plans for your next incarnation, Hercules? Not yet. He's showing there is this sort of pact thing, this idea. He really wants to work with young men, like not children, but like late teenagers, 20s. That's what he's feeling most drawn towards right now, is working with a male of like 15 to 30 years old. Yeah, Hercules is showing there is a very masculine learning process going on for him. Let's see. So we got a message here. So Linda wonders, Linda, your previous owner, Hercules, curious if the crow feathers that are showing up on her lawn around his death anniversary are messages from him. Ooh, wow, I get massive goosebumps and tingles when I ask him that. He's saying yes. He still thinks about you, Linda, and how important your time was together. Yeah, he's saying it too, like there's a level of, it's not grief necessarily in the traditional sense that we might normally think of it. It's showing it more as like the human condition where it kind of hurts, or we feel pain in our hearts when we're separated from those that we love. And it's not that he feels sad, or it's not grief in this like pulling down or negative kind of way that he's pointing to. It's more, it's like the spark of pain helps him feel how big his heart is what he's saying. Okay, and then we've got another question here from Nancy. Do animals grieve when they leave us, and do they remember us and continue to connect with us even when they reincarnate? What do you think about that, Hercules? He's saying it's not, it's not, again, it's not grief necessarily in the same way that humans might conceptualize it. Like he does feel sometimes in his heart like this, again, this pang of like, oh, I miss her. Or sometimes he's saying that it's that we feel the human's pain. Sometimes we feel their grief as our own. And so we definitely feel it. We're aware of it. And it's not quite the same for us, he says. Like we have a different understanding of death and life and he's showing because we don't get as entangled up in the messiness of life, like the way humans do, the way they kind of, um, he's showing like different groups of people and how like they can kind of get like this with each other. And it's not the same, he says. Um, keep going, Hercules. I think there's a little bit more I'm not quite getting. So he says, yes, he's showing me like a timeline of his own, and he shows all these dots along the way, like here I was a cat, here I was a dog, I was a squirrel here. He's like, I definitely remember all of the past lives along my timeline. I remember the humans that were very important to me. I definitely remember them. And he's feeling it more as like an opening in his heart. Like even when he feels the pain, it creates an opening because it makes him remember how much he loved and cared for these humans. Oh, thank you, Hercules. That's so beautiful. All right, I'm gonna jump here and see if we got any questions on Facebook Live. Got any questions over here coming through? All right. Looks like I'm not seeing any questions on Facebook. If you're joining us live, either on Zoom or on Facebook Live, you can definitely enter into the comments or to the chat, and we can ask Hercules some more questions. Okay, thanks. Just getting a little feedback. Thank you, Hercules. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Hercules, I wonder what else you want to share with us about today. The reason I started these sessions was, well, it had a lot to do with this squirrel that was telling me I needed to do it, but also just to help people connect or maybe understand some animal wisdom around what's happening in the world today with the coronavirus and the pandemic. I wonder if you have any thoughts or feelings about that, Hercules. He's showing me like he feels quite separate from it. It's almost like he's above Earth in space, kind of looking down and seeing it all happen. And yeah, he's comparing us to ants a little bit. Like he's showing ants all running around in their little worlds doing their things. He's like, humans seem a bit more like ants compared to this pandemic where it's like they don't necessarily have a lot of control. It feels scary. And yeah, I just keep seeing like the legs of like ants, like we're scurrying. He's like comparing the legs to um, how we're scurrying to like figure out what to do about this virus. But his view is he's seeing it as like, wow, this is just one more thing that's happening on Earth. It's part of evolution. He doesn't feel super concerned about it. He says, but my perspective is far different from people on Earth right now. Do you think you'll reincarnate before maybe this is all past? I just see this big question mark, like, well, I'm not really sure. Um, he's like, I don't really have any sense of how long this could go on. It's like, well, I'm not incarnating anytime soon. He's like, it's definitely not within the next six weeks, if that's what you're asking me. So it sounds like you don't really have a specific date or time period picked out for when you're going to come back. Is that right, Hercules? It's like, yeah, no, it's just not certain yet. He's still looking for the right for the right human to help, he says. Thank you, Hercules. All right, so we've got another question from Kim. It seems like it, but do animals love a whole bunch of folks when they are incarnated, or mostly just their own people? What do you think about that, Hercules? He said there's no one set answer to that because animals are as different from each other as humans are. He's showing like, okay, well, you might have this introverted human who really only connects with maybe 2 or 3 people. That's their people. But maybe you have this other like super extroverted person who's always out talking to everybody. And he says it's the same with animals. Like some animals will, they only want to bond with this small group of people, but some want to bring their love to everybody. So it's a very individual thing. He says he's played both roles, and it's interesting to play both roles. And yeah, he says it's something that the animal spirits, they kind of switch up every once in a while. At least that's what he's seen, is like sometimes he'll come as a very extroverted, wanting to connect with everybody kind of pet, and the other times, like he's showing in his previous life as a cat, he was more connected to just like this family of humans that lived in the house with him. He's saying that mostly, from what he's seen, that animals will have, especially domestic animals, he says wild animals are a whole other thing, but when domestic animals come to a person or to a family, that a lot of times there is a specific person or persons within that family that maybe they want to work with even more. Even for those very extroverted dogs, it might be that this person needs to learn something about extroversion, and so we will display that. You know, maybe the person we're working with is actually very introverted, but by working with me as an extrovert, it can help them develop other qualities. So there's not one answer to this question. It kind of just depends. That's what Hercules says. Thank you, Hercules. All right, so I'm checking over here on Facebook too to see if we have any other questions. All right, not seeing any questions for Hercules. Okay, so Hercules, we're kind of coming to the end of our time here today. Is there anything else you want to share with the world, with the people listening? He's showing how he really wants people to be more connected to their higher self and understand that down here, life on earth isn't all there is. It's like whether you pick a religion or a spiritual tradition, hopefully whatever you pick will help you connect to this higher part of yourself. And that is a big part of what animals come in our lives to do, he says. Thank you, Hercules. All right. Okay, thank you so much, Hercules. It sounds like that's kind of wrapping things up for us. So I'm going to stop sharing your picture here. And thanks so much to everybody who joined us live today. This has been so much fun doing these little mini animal communications for people and putting them out to the world. There's a lot of animal wisdom they would like to share with us. So thanks for joining. If you have a pet or an animal friend that you think would like to connect with me and really share their wisdom with the world, go ahead and send me a message in some way, shape, or form, and you can get your pet in the queue. All right, thanks so much, and take care, everyone.